Gold prices are at record highs. And I don't just mean high like, wow, that ring is expensive.
No, not at all.
I mean, we are talking about numbers that would make a pirate blush and probably make a central banker sweat.
A lot of them are sweating, I can assure you.
But here's the central question, the one we really need to answer today. Is this just a market pump? Is this just speculation running wild because people are scared?
Or is it something structural?
Or is it a structural shift in the way the entire world economy functions?
It is, I think, the question of the hour. Or, more accurately, the question of the entire decade.
Yeah.
We are looking at a fundamental rewiring of the global financial operating system.
A rewiring. That's a great way to put it. Okay, so let's set the scene for everyone listening. It is February 12th, 2026. Gold has soared past $5,000 per ounce. Just let that sink in for a second. $5,000.
It's a huge psychological barrier, one that, frankly, many mainstream economists thought we wouldn't see for another 10 years if we ever saw it at all.
And while the average person, maybe you listening on your commute, maybe me while I'm doom scrolling, has been busy binging the latest series on Netflix or worrying about the price of eggs,
Right.
there has been this incredible, almost silent geopolitical maneuvering happening in the East.
I like to say, while the West watches streaming services, the East is playing high-stakes geopolitical chess.
I love that image. It's so true. And the pieces on the board, they aren't pawns.
Not at all.
They are gold bars. Massive ones. We are seeing an unprecedented buying spree by the People's Bank of China and the Reserve Bank of India.
Unprecedented is the right word.
And let's be crystal clear right off the bat, this isn't for jewelry. They aren't stocking up for a massive wedding season. Well, actually, the people are, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's a whole other fascinating layer.
But the government?
No, absolutely not. This is sovereign-level accumulation. This is about national balance sheets, it's about national security, and ultimately the future of trade settlement.
So today we are unpacking what we've decided to call the golden pivot.
The golden pivot. It fits perfectly.
It sounds a bit like a dance move from the 70s, but it's actually this massive economic realignment.
Yeah.
And I really want to set the scope here because this goes way, way beyond your grandpa's mattress gold. The coins buried in the backyard in a coffee can just in case the world ends.
Right. This is not about survivalism. We're talking about something much more systemic. It's about structural economics.
Okay, so we've identified 3 massive impacts we need to cover in this deep dive. First, this pivot is unlocking trillions in wealth.
Trillions with a T.
Trillions with a T. Second, it is actually formalizing shadow economies, literally bringing black markets out into the light.
Which is something governments have tried and failed to do for decades.
Exactly. And third, and this is the big one geopolitically, it is building financial highways that completely bypass the West.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Satoshi.
And I'm Satoshi.
Which, of course, puts the U.S. dollar in a very, let's say, uncomfortable position.
The dollar is definitely looking over its shoulder as gold marches confidently past 5,000.
It's a very different landscape than even 2 years ago. I mean, the core assumptions of the last 80 years are being challenged in real time.
Now, before we dive into the geopolitics of this, I do have to do a little housekeeping and a little celebration, actually.
Oh.
We checked the stats, and our listenership is now over 2,000 hours across all platforms.
That is incredible. Seriously, thank you to everyone listening. That is a lot of deep diving.
It's amazing. It really is. But we have a mission. We are chasing that 1,000 subscriber winter target.
The elusive 1,000.
We're so close.
Yeah.
So here is the call to action. If you are enjoying this, if you're getting value from this deep dive, please subscribe. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Fountain.fm, wherever you are, just hit that button.
And can I add a quick clarification for the YouTube crowd? Because we do get comments about this.
Yes, the disclaimer, please.
We are an audio-only show. The YouTube channel is there primarily for YouTube music distribution.
Right.
So if you're staring at a static image and wondering where the video is, apologies if our audio-centric deep dives feel a bit odd on a video platform.
We aren't hiding. We just aren't filming yet.
And there's a very specific reason we need the subscribers, especially on that platform.
Exactly. The why. We need 1,000 subscribers to unlock the funding for the Mosaic AI video editor.
Ah, the Mosaic editor.
Yes, we want to start creating explainer videos, infographics, visual aids to go along with all this audio. We want to show you the charts we're looking at.
Which would be so helpful for some of this stuff.
It really would, but
Yeah.
we can't unlock those tools until we hit that milestone. So, one more time, subscribe, help us make the show even better.
It really does help the community grow. And honestly, it improves the content for everyone.
Okay, that's a pitch. Let's get into it. Section 1, the geopolitics of the golden pivot.
Let's get into the machinery of it.
We have to start with the history, right? The context is everything here. For decades, since the mid-1940s, really, we lived in a world defined by Bretton Woods.
Correct. The post-World War II financial architecture, it was a unipolar system. The entire financial sun revolved around the US dollar.
It was the center of the universe.
It was the reserve asset, it was the medium of exchange, the unit of account. If you wanted to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you needed dollars. If you wanted to buy copper from Chile, you needed dollars.
It was the water the global economy swam in. You didn't even notice it was there.
Precisely. And for a long, long time, that worked. It worked largely because the U.S. was the undisputed economic engine of the world. But now,
not so much.
Now we're seeing a transition away from that unipolar, dollar-centered architecture. It's fracturing. And in that fracture, gold is reemerging.
But in a different way.
In a very different way. Not just as a commodity, not just as something you trade like pork bellies or soybeans. It is coming back as a primary instrument of sovereign reserve management.
That sounds fancy. Sovereign reserve management. What does that actually mean?
It's a bit of jargon, you're right. Essentially, it means that nations are deciding they'd rather hold shiny physical metal in their vaults than paper promises from the US Treasury.
That is the blunt way to put it.
I like the reality. And the price movement reflects that shift.
Yeah.
We've moved from those historical averages, that $1,500 to $2,000 range, right up to that $5,000 threshold in early 2026.
And that kind of move doesn't happen because of consumer inflation or people buying earrings.
Well, that happens because of a structural shift in demand at the state level. The biggest players on Earth are buying.
So let's talk about who is buying, because the scale of this is, frankly, mind-boggling. We mentioned China and India in the teaser. Let's drill down. The People's Bank of China, the PBOC.
The PBOC has been on an absolute tear. Leading into early 2026, they had a streak of 15 consecutive months of gold buying.
15 months. That's not a hedge. That's a campaign.
That's a very long shopping spree, a very deliberate one. Their official reserves are reported at 2,280 tons.
Reported. You keep emphasizing that word. Why?
Because in the world of opaque central banking, reported is often just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
Many market analysts, and certainly the intelligence reports we've been looking at, they all suspect the hidden holdings gold held by state agencies, by sovereign wealth funds, or off-balance sheet entities are significantly higher, maybe double.
Why hide it? What's the point?
Strategic ambiguity. It's a classic move. If you show your full hand, you drive the price up against yourself before you're done accumulating.
You don't want everyone to know you're buying.
Right. Also, it masks the true extent of your de-dollarization efforts. But even the official number, 2,280 tons, shows a clear aim. Reduce reliance on the US dollar. Period.
And then there's India, the Reserve Bank of India, the RBI.
India's story is, in some ways, even more dramatic. Not in total volume, but in the sheer acceleration.
The speed of it.
The speed. In 2024, their purchases increased fourfold. 4 times. They didn't just buy. It felt like they panic bought. They added 73 tons in a single year to reach a total of 876 tons.
So why the sudden... India has always loved gold culturally. That's no secret. But the central bank buying like this, it feels urgent.
It is urgent. But you have to see, it's not just them. That's the key. You have to look at the global context to understand the urgency.
Okay.
The National Bank of Poland has been an incredibly aggressive buyer in Europe.
Poland, really?
Oh, yeah. Very aggressive. Turkey is buying constantly. Singapore is buying. This isn't just an anti-West thing or a BRICS thing, although that's a big part of it. It's a global trend toward diversification and self-preservation.
Okay, but diversification is such a nice, polite corporate word. It's what my financial advisor tells me to do with my 401k.
Right.
What's the real motivation here? What are they really doing this for?
It's 2 words, really. Sovereignty and safety. The trust in Western fiat assets has simply eroded. There are 2 main pillars to this erosion. First, the fiscal discipline issues in the West. It's no secret. The U.S. debt is ballooning, currently spiraling past numbers that are hard to even comprehend.
30, 40 trillion. The numbers lose meaning.
They do. And the holders of that debt, countries like China and India, are starting to worry about the long-term purchasing power of what they're holding.
They're worried the U.S. is just going to print its way out of trouble, which devalues the bonds they hold.
Exactly. Inflation is a form of default. It's a way of defaulting on your debt without actually defaulting. You pay back the dollars, sure, but the dollars are worth much, much less.
Sticky.
That's how empires have always done it. But the second pillar, and this is perhaps more important for countries like China and Russia, is the weaponization of the financial system.
Sanctions.
Sanctions. Asset freezes. The freezing of Russia's central bank assets back in 2022 was an absolute watershed moment.
It was a wake-up call.
It sent a shockwave through the entire global south. The message was loud and clear. If you hold your reserves in U.S. dollars, those dollars are ultimately in the U.S. banking system. And if the U.S. government decides to freeze them, you lose access to your national savings overnight.
Gone. Just switched off.
But gold, physical gold, held in your own vaults, has no counterparty risk.
It's the ultimate cancel-proof money. You can't turn off a gold bar.
That is a perfect way to describe it. It creates what we call jurisdictional security. And this is why repatriation is such a huge part of the story. It's not enough to own it anymore. You have to physically hold it.
Right. I wanted to ask about this. The India repatriation story. This felt like a plot from a movie.
It really does. In 2024, India moved 100 tons of gold from the United Kingdom, where it had been stored for years and years with the Bank of England, back to domestic vaults in India.
100 tons of gold. That is not tossing a backpack in an Uber?
No.
That's armed guards, special planes, secret flight paths. That's a massive logistical operation.
It's a heist movie in reverse. Instead of stealing it, they're bringing it home. But think about the signal that sends. The Bank of England is one of the most trusted custodians in financial history.
Sure.
For India to say, thanks, but we'll take that back now, it signals a profound shift in trust, a collapse in trust, really.
It says, we don't just want to own the gold, we want to hold the gold.
Exactly. We want it on our soil, under our laws, under our control. It insulates their balance sheets from mark-to-market losses on US Treasuries, sure, but that's a secondary benefit. The primary driver is protecting against the risk of having your national assets locked up by a foreign power during a geopolitical dispute.
So, to sum it up, gold is a safe haven with zero default risk. It's the only financial asset in the world that isn't simultaneously someone else's liability.
Correct. It stands alone.
Okay, so that's the government level. That's the high-stakes chess game involving treaties and armies and central banks.
Yeah.
But here is where it gets really, really interesting for the actual economy. Section 2. The wealth effect.
This is where we move from the central banks in their marble halls to the streets of Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore.
The statistics on household gold ownership in India are just... They don't even sound real. I had to double-check the source material 3 times.
They are staggering. The estimates put private gold ownership in India somewhere between 30,000 and 34,600 tons.
30,000 tons.
Let's put that in perspective. The U.S. government, the largest official holder in the world, the gold in Fort Knox and West Point, holds about 8,000 tons.
Okay.
Indian households hold 4 times that amount.
That is just wild. The citizens of India have 4 times the gold of the entire U.S. empire.
That's incredible.
And with prices at $5,000 an ounce, what is that worth? What's the valuation on that hoard?
The valuation is estimated to be somewhere between $3.8 trillion and $5 trillion.
That's larger than India's annual GDP.
It is. It exceeds their GDP. It is a massive, decentralized store of wealth. But here is a crucial shift, the pivot we're talking about. For decades, Western economists looked at this gold with disdain. They called it dead capital.
Dead capital, meaning it just sat there. It wasn't productive.
Exactly. It sat in lockers. It sat in jewelry boxes. It was buried under floorboards. It adorned statues and temples. It didn't do anything. It didn't earn interest. It didn't build factories. It didn't fund startups. It was idle, useless in their view.
But the golden pivot changes that.
It completely flips the script. As prices hit $5,000, the nominal net worth of every single Indian family with gold expands dramatically. That's the textbook wealth effect. People feel richer because, on paper, they are richer.
But it's not just about feeling richer, right? They are actually able to use it now.
That's the key. We are seeing a huge shift from dead to dynamic. The modern financial system in India has evolved, specifically through fintech innovations and banking reforms, to allow people to use this gold as collateral for loans very, very easily.
Gold loans.
Gold loans. Get this. In December 2025, the official data showed that Indian bank credit for gold loans surged by 126.6% year on year.
Wait, 126%. That's not growth. That's an explosion. That's a vertical line on a chart.
It is, and it solves a massive problem for the real economy. Think about a small business owner, an MSME, a micro, small, or medium enterprise, or a farmer in a rural district.
Okay.
They often struggle to get unsecured loans because they don't have perfect documentation, they don't have years of tax returns, or a high credit score.
The banks won't touch them. They're considered unbankable in the traditional sense.
Typically, no. But what happens if that farmer walks into the bank with the family gold, the family jewelry?
The bank doesn't care about his credit score anymore.
They don't need to see a tax return. They weigh the gold, they check the purity with an XRF machine right there on the counter, and they issue the cash. It's instant liquidity against a hard asset.
So this dead capital is suddenly funding new tractors, shop expansions, inventory for small businesses.
Exactly. It's pumping the domestic economy from the bottom up. It creates jobs. It's bypassing all the friction of the traditional banking assessment and injecting capital directly where it's needed most. It turns a defensive ancestral asset into offensive, productive capital.
That is fascinating. It's like the country discovered a massive oil reserve, except the oil was already in everyone's jewelry box the whole time.
That is a very, very apt analogy. It's internal resource mobilization on a scale we've never seen before.
But here's the thing that confuses me, and I think this is where my Western brain just gets stuck. If I bought gold at $2,000 and now it's at $5,000, I am selling. I'm cashing out.
Right.
I'm buying a boat. I'm going to Hawaii. Why aren't we seeing a massive sell-off from Indian households that just crashes the price right back down?
Now this brings us to Section 3, sociocultural inelasticity.
Inelasticity, a fancy economist word for stubborn.
In this case, yes. But it's stubbornness that is deeply rooted in thousands of years of cultural values.
Yeah.
You have to contrast Western market behavior with Asian market behavior.
Okay.
In the West, gold is a financial asset. It's an ETF ticker on a screen. It's a bar you bought to flip for a profit. When the price goes up, you take that profit.
Of course. Buy low, sell high. That's the first rule of investing.
That is the mantra. But in India and China, the psychology is fundamentally different. There is a powerful cultural stigma attached to selling gold.
A stigma? You mean like it's embarrassing?
It's deeply embarrassing. It is viewed as a sign of absolute financial distress. You only sell the family gold if you are truly bankrupt, if there's a severe medical emergency, if you have absolutely no other choice left.
Wow.
It is the asset of last resort. If you are selling gold, the neighbors will whisper that your family is in serious trouble.
So even if the price triples, you don't sell because selling implies you've failed financially.
Precisely. It's seen as intergenerational wealth. You don't sell your grandmother's wedding necklace to buy a new car. You keep it for your daughter's wedding. And that brings us to the wedding imperative.
No gold, no wedding. I've heard this phrase before.
It's not a slogan, it's a social reality. The demand for gold for weddings persists, regardless of the cost. It's non-negotiable. You might buy slightly lighter jewelry, or maybe 18 karat instead of 22, but you still buy. You have to. A bride without gold is, well, it's just not done. It would bring shame to the family.
Okay, so let's piece this together from a supply and demand perspective. We have the central banks, China and India buying like crazy. That's huge price-insensitive demand.
Right.
And we have the general public who owns most of the existing gold absolutely refusing to sell it back into the market because of culture and stigma.
That is the supply squeeze.
It's a perfect storm. It's a collision.
It is. Empirical data from 2025 show that even with a 65% climb in the price of gold, 70% of the domestic demand for gold remained completely unaffected. It was inelastic.
So you have these aggressive billionaires, the central banks, competing for a very limited pool of available metal against a population that just will not let go of what they have.
And the inevitable result of that dynamic is a parabolic move in price. That is how we went from that sleepy $1,500 to $2,000 range, where it was stuck for years, straight up to over $5,000. The float, the amount of gold actually available for sale, is tiny compared to the demand.
Just where does it stop? Is there a ceiling?
Well, the forensics of the price target now, what institutions are looking at, suggests $5,400 to $6,000 for 2026 and 2027 is a realistic target.
Why that high? What's the math behind that?
It's a pretty straightforward calculation, actually. It's based on the money supply, specifically M2 versus the existing gold stock. If you look at how many dollars and other currencies have been printed in the last 5 years versus how much new gold has been mined.
There's a huge gap.
A massive gap. The price of gold has to catch up to that reality. The dollar has been diluted, and gold is simply repricing itself to reflect that fundamental dilution.
The math is catching up to reality.
It seems so.
Okay, so we have the hoarders, we have the buyers. But there is another, even more complex layer to this onion. We talked about bypassing the West. This isn't just about storing wealth, it's about moving wealth. Section 4, the BRICS unit and de-dollarization.
This is the technological and structural innovation layer. This is where it gets a little technical, but it's crucial you stick with us because this is, very likely, the future of international trade.
We've heard about BRICS for years and years. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now the new members. They're always talking about creating a common currency. Is this finally it? Is it happening?
It's getting very, very real. And to understand why, we have to look at the specific problem they're trying to solve. Let's call it the rupee trap.
The rupee trap. It sounds like a bad spy novel. What happened?
Well, in 2023 and 2024, Russia was selling massive amounts of oil to India because, of course, Europe had stopped buying it after the sanctions.
Right.
India was paying for this oil in its own currency, in rupees. So Russia ended up with billions and billions of rupees sitting in Indian bank accounts.
And Russia couldn't use them? I don't get it. Money is money.
Not always. The rupee isn't fully convertible on the global market. It's a managed currency. So Russia needed to buy goods, lots of goods, from China.
Okay.
But China doesn't want rupees. They want their own currency, the yuan, or they want hard assets. And Russia couldn't convert the rupees to dollars because of sanctions, which cut them off from the dollar system. So Russia had this massive pile of currency they literally couldn't spend. It was a liquidity trap.
They were rich in rupees, but poor in actual purchasing power.
Exactly. It highlighted a critical weakness in non-dollar trade. They needed a neutral settlement mechanism, something that everyone in their bloc accepts, that maintains value, but that is not the U.S. dollar.
Enter the unit.
Enter the unit.
This still sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel. Pay me in units.
It sounds futuristic, but it's an intensely pragmatic solution. The unit is a hybrid reserve basket.
Okay, what does that mean? What's in it?
The technical composition they're working with is 40% physical gold. That's the value anchor. And 60% is a weighted basket of BRICS currencies.
So that's the Brazilian real, the Chinese yuan, the Indian rupee, the Russian ruble, and the South African rand.
Correct. So the 40% gold gives it trust. It gives it intrinsic value. Because gold is real. It's not just a government promise.
Gold is a trust layer.
It anchors the whole system. And the 60% currency component provides the liquidity you need for day-to-day transaction sizing. Because you can't easily pay for a shipment of grain with, a fraction of a gold bar. It's just not practical.
So how does it actually move? Are they shipping gold bars back and forth on ships every time they make a trade? That seems old-fashioned.
No, that would be incredibly inefficient and risky. The whole thing is built on modern infrastructure. It uses blockchain and distributed ledger technology maintained by a group called IRAS, the International Research Institute for Advanced Systems.
So it's essentially a digital token, like a cryptocurrency, but it's backed by a physical basket of gold and actual currencies.
Effectively, yes. That's a great way to think about it. It transforms gold from a passive reserve asset that just sits in a vault into an active trade asset. You tokenize the gold, and you trade the token that represents it.
And the primary use case here
is settling energy and agricultural trade. The big stuff. If India wants to buy oil from Russia, or if Brazil wants to sell soybeans to China, they can settle the entire transaction in units.
No U.S. dollars involved.
Zero.
No SWIFT messaging system involved.
None.
No Western oversight whatsoever.
That is the key, isn't it? No Western oversight. It's an invisibility cloak for sovereign trade.
It bypasses transaction costs, I'm sure, but that's not the main point.
No, the main point is that it neutralizes the threat of sanctions.
Yeah.
If you aren't using the dollar system, the U.S. Treasury can't turn off the tap. They can't see the flow. They have no leverage.
That changes the whole game. It's not just about money. It's about power. It removes the big stick the U.S. has wielded for the last 80 years.
It is a direct challenge to the financial hegemony of the West. They're not trying to destroy the existing toll road. They're just building a new 6-lane superhighway right around it.
Speaking of challenges and bypasses, let's look back internally at India for a second. We mentioned this in the intro, formalizing the shadow economy, Section 5. This is fascinating because it sounds like a government conspiracy theory that actually came true.
It's less of a conspiracy and more of a carrot strategy versus a stick strategy. It's brilliant behavioral economics applied to tax collection.
So the core problem is black money.
Yes. India has a massive parallel economy. Cash transactions, unreported income, tax evasion. It's a huge challenge. Estimates suggest a significant percentage of the entire economy happens off the books, in the shadows.
And the government has tried to kill it before, right?
They tried a very aggressive stick approach, demonetization in 2016. They canceled the largest banknotes overnight. The idea was to flush out all the black money, make the illicit cash worthless unless you deposited it in a bank and paid taxes on it.
Did it work?
Not really. It caused a lot of chaos for ordinary people, but the wealthy players just found ways to wash the cash, or, crucially, they just used it to buy more gold and hid it even better.
So the stick failed. The punishment didn't work.
The stick failed miserably. So now we are seeing the opposite approach. We're seeing the leveraged formalization strategy.
Dude, carrot.
Exactly. The government is essentially allowing, even encouraging, gold prices to skyrocket. Yeah. They aren't trying to suppress the price with high import duties or regulations like they used to.
Why? Why would they want the price of gold to inflate?
Because when gold hits $5,000 an ounce, the opportunity cost of holding that wealth in the dark becomes too high to ignore.
Explain that. Opportunity cost.
Okay, so if you have a kilo of gold buried in your garden and it's worth $50,000, maybe you just leave it there. It's your secret rainy day fund.
Right.
But what happens when that same kilo of gold is suddenly worth $160,000? That is a lot of capital just sitting there doing nothing. That is a factory you could build. That is an apartment complex you could finance. That represents a life-changing amount of money.
You're tempted to use it. Greed starts to kick in.
You are very tempted. And to use it to get that low-interest gold loan we talked about, or to deposit it in a gold monetization scheme where the bank actually pays you interest on your gold, you have to enter the formal banking system.
And the moment you enter the banking system,
you are visible. The wealth becomes formal. The government can see it. It can be taxed. It can be tracked.
Goldification.
That is the term political critics are using.
Oh, what?
Goldification. It's forcing black money into the light, not by punishment, but by incentive, by greed.
That is incredibly clever. It's almost Machiavellian.
It is. And it fuels tax compliance because now these businesses have a banking history. It fuels GDP growth because that once dead money is now moving through the economy.
And it explains why the current government seems okay with inflation in gold prices. It's actually a core part of their economic strategy.
It contributes to their record-high GDP growth, which was above 7% in 2025. It creates political support. People feel rich. Small businesses are getting loans. The economy is moving. It's an alternative plan to the Western model of debt-fueled growth. They're using asset price appreciation to fuel real economic growth.
It's a bold, bold strategy, but obviously there is a loser in this global game. If the BRICS are winning, if gold is winning, if India's shadow economy is legitimizing itself outside the dollar, who is losing? Section 6, the U.S. response and the chess game.
Well, you know Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Or in this case, an opposite financial flow.
Exactly. If you are buying gold, you are selling something else to pay for it. You don't just conjure the money out of thin air.
You're selling dollars. Or more specifically, you're selling US Treasuries.
Precisely. We are seeing a massive dumping of US Treasuries by these central banks. The flip side of the gold buying spree is the debt selling spree.
What are the numbers on that?
India's US Treasury holdings fell below $190 billion. That's down 26% from their peak.
A quarter of their holdings are gone. They are systematically liquidating their U.S. debt position.
And China is even more significant. Their holdings are the lowest level since 2008. They are methodically unwinding their exposure to U.S. debt.
Ouch. That has to hurt U.S. bond yields. It has to make borrowing more expensive for the U.S. government.
It does. We are seeing what some analysts are calling a global divide. The Western allies, the UK, Japan, parts of Europe, they are still buying treasuries. They are supporting the system.
Of course.
But the global south, the BRICS nations and their allies, they are dumping them.
This is the erosion of that privilege we always hear about.
The exorbitant privilege. That is the official economic term for the unique ability of the U.S. to run massive deficits cheaply because the rest of the world has to buy your debt in order to conduct international trade.
And if they stop buying the debt,
then the U.S. has to pay much higher interest rates to attract new buyers. Or the Federal Reserve has to print the money to buy the debt itself, which causes massive domestic inflation. It puts the U.S. in a fiscal straitjacket.
And if BRICS nations really do start settling oil in these units instead of dollars.
Then the whole petrodollar recycling system ends. That mechanism where countries sold oil for dollars and then had no choice but to use those dollars to buy U.S. debt. That beautiful self-sustaining cycle breaks. The artificial structural demand for the dollar begins to evaporate.
This sounds really bad for the U.S.
It is a significant strategic challenge. It's nothing less than the potential undoing of the entire post-WWII financial order.
So what's the countermove? The U.S. isn't just going to sit there and let the dollar fade away, right? The U.S. still has the biggest military and the biggest economy. This is the ultimate game of geopolitical chess.
It is. And the U.S. has to find a way to maintain dominance. They can't just pivot and start buying gold now. The price is too high, and they've already allowed too much of it to flow east. They need a different kind of advantage, an asymmetric advantage.
And this is where things get really wild. There's a theory and a strategic recommendation that we actually discussed in a previous deep dive.
Yes. If you are listening to this right now and getting worried about the future of the dollar, you absolutely need to hear the other side of the coin.
Right. We did a whole deep dive on this exact problem. The episode is called Bitcoin Fixes U.S. Debt and Funds AI Supremacy.
If you haven't listened to that one, you really need to. I'd say pause this, go listen, and then come back. Or listen to it right after this. It is the essential companion piece to this entire discussion.
We will put the link in the description, but give us the 30-second version. How does that fit into this chess game?
Well, the core argument is that if gold is the chosen reserve asset of the old world, the BRICS asset, the physical analog asset, then the U.S. needs to embrace the premier reserve asset of the digital world.
So the U.S. could pivot to Bitcoin as a reserve asset to counter the East's gold move.
Fighting physical gold with digital gold.
Wow.
Precisely. The argument is that the U.S. has the energy dominance and the AI supremacy required to secure the Bitcoin network at scale. If the BRICS aim to control the physical monetary layer, which is gold, then the U.S. must pivot to control the digital monetary layer, which is Bitcoin. It's the only viable countermove in the geopolitical chess game. But for the full detailed argument, you really have to check out that episode.
Seriously, do it. It connects all these dots. It turns what sounds like gloom and doom for the West into a potential strategic roadmap for the future.
So where does all this leave us?
Outro time. Let's reflect on what the future might look like.
I think it's safe to say we are witnessing a profound shift. The era of the dollar's unassailable reign, where it was the only game in town, is ending. It won't disappear overnight, of course not. But it is no longer the monopolist. It's becoming just one option among several.
We are moving toward a system you've called Barter 2.0.
I love that phrase, Barter 2.0. It's a world where trust is built on physical gold, the most ancient form of money, and on digital ledgers, the most modern technology. Not on the fiat promises of governments. It's a return to hard assets, facilitated by smart software.
It's high-tech meets ancient history.
And this golden pivot is the catalyst. It is a declaration of financial autonomy. It is the Global South standing up and saying, we will build our own financial highways, with our own rules, using our own assets.
So here's the final provocative thought we want to leave with you, the listener. We've laid out the whole chessboard. Gold is rising. The dollar is being challenged. The East is buying up all the physical metal.
And the ultimate question is, how should the U.S. respond?
And for you personally, sitting at home or in your car, should you start buying more gold? Is it too late at $5,000? Or does the answer, the real asymmetric bet, lie in that new asset class we hinted at, Bitcoin?
Is the future yellow metal or is it orange coin?
That is the question to mull over this week.
And we genuinely want to hear from you on this. This is a community effort. We look at the sources, we analyze the data, but this story is unfolding in real time right now.
Share your analysis in the comments. Tell us what you think. Are we too optimistic about the BRICS unit? Are we too critical of the dollar's future? Do you have sources or data that we missed?
We want to hear from finance experts, from crypto natives, from geopolitical junkies. Reach out. Let's debate this. This is how we all get smarter.
And remember, please subscribe so we can get that Mosaic AI video editor. We really want to visualize this stuff for you.
Yes, please subscribe. It helps us help you make sense of this crazy world.
As always, keep searching.
Keep the quest on.
And we'll catch you in the next deep dive.
I'm Satosha.
And I'm Satoshi.